It's Super Bowl week, but it feels more like Super Shrug week.
Ooh.
It feels like Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Meh.
Yeah.
Why is that? Things we will get into today on a Joe Ovius list. Ovius and Giglio. I'm Joe Giglio, joined today by Demetri Ravanos. Demetri, appreciate you taking your time on an emergency basis here to fill in. We are here at the beautiful Ephra Studios, thanks to our friends at Empire Properties, Empire Eats. Go get yourself some coffee over at the Morning Times. That's a big win for you. Thanks to our friends at Copiers Plus.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make mistakes. They don't shrug. They don't meh. They're actually giving away $20,000 to local businesses. You can get a piece of that by going to
September Creative.
You can get into that
money
by going copiers-plus.com. Big thanks to our friends at Copiers Plus. And no Joe Ovius today because he's sick.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to make more good choices. A great way to make good choices is to go to Happy and Hail.
Oh, very good.
We will be at Happy and Hail tomorrow, Thursday, for a very special live show at noon. Well, I'll be there.
Sure.
So we'll see what we can do. We'll make the magic happen. But I know this. We have a new code for Happy and Hail. It's OG25. Use that promo code, save 25% on your first order on the app. It's Happy Plus Hail on the app. They have unbelievable food there. I promise you, not only is it good for you and are you making a good choice, but it's also delicious. Now,
I feel like the world lied to us about healthier bowls not being good.
No, delicious. Yeah. Really, and filling, by the way. The Super Bowl, though, I don't know. Maybe we're just too removed from it. It's in New Orleans. It's the Chiefs. It's the Eagles. There's no real connection. We're in Raleigh. I don't know.
I mean, is part of it also that it's Wednesday? Like, would it be different if you and I were having this conversation on Friday?
We'll get cranked up as the week goes along.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. My guess is no, but I think it is fair to ask, is being this far out part of why we feel like kind of who cares?
I think so. And I had worried about this going into the championship round, the conference championship round. We're getting now the Eagles and the Chiefs for the second time.
Second time in 3 years.
Last year, we got the Niners and the Chiefs for the second time, right? I feel like, though, we're missing out on a little bit of history here in a chase for history. There have been 9 repeat winners in the history of the Super Bowl. 9, starting with Super Bowl 1 and 2. Green Bay Packers.
So we're saying 9 back-to-back.
Yes, back-to-back. The Chiefs are the first of those 9 winners to get to the 3rd Super Bowl. No other team has even so much as gotten to this point. And yet, here we are, this chase for history. There's been some talk of, Reed and Patrick Mahomes surpassing Belichick and Brady and all those other things. Yeah, there's some of that out there. But there's no real buzz here in the sense that I think I could put my finger on it. It's a lot like rye toast. I mean, it's good, but it's not great. I mean, it doesn't really cause you one way or the other, right? Like, sorry, that was a really bad Colin Cowherd. I don't know if the Chiefs.
What's wrong with being?
I don't think people hate the Chiefs per se.
Yeah,
but I also don't think they like them. Like, are the Chiefs themselves? Andy Reid is yes.
Yeah,
Patrick Mahomes. I mean, his brother, the wife, I think that.
I think with the Patriots, it was very easy for all of us to have a reason to dislike the Patriots, right?
Yes.
They cheated.
Belichick.
Tom Brady kind of seemed like an asshole. Belichick was an asshole. Like, there were all kinds of reasons that were universal. I think the hatred for the Chiefs becomes very personal. Is it Mahomes' politics? Is it Travis Kelce
Butker?
Butker's politics. Is it Travis Kelce with Taylor Swift? Like, I think there are so many different.
The referees are a real part of it.
The referees are a real part of it.
With gambling, it's a real thing.
I also, dare I say, Joe, they're also boring. I mean, they're just a boring team. Now, don't get me wrong.
Post Tyreek Hill, they're boring.
Post Tyreek Hill, they're boring. And that is not to say watching them is boring. I agree with everybody that says Mahomes already has a claim or already has a legitimate argument for the GOAT. That is absolutely true. I'm saying personality-wise, they are largely a boring team that, unless you are a dyed-in-the-wool Chiefs fan, there's not really much to latch on to.
He's got a lot of Derek Jeter to him.
Yes.
And then he's just pablum. There's just no substance to anything he says.
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard him say anything that I'm interested in his topic.
How can you be in that many State Farm commercials and Derrick Henry be better than all of them in just one?
Now, the other part of this is they're playing the Eagles.
Uh-huh.
So I played golf with an Eagles fan on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, I'm from Philly. He's like, but I'm nice Philly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sir, that's an oxymoron. Okay. You're booing Santa Claus. You're throwing batteries at Dr. J or whatever the urban legend is at this point, who they were throwing batteries at. They are not a nice people. They are a hard scrabble, angry, make sure there's a jail and a court system at our stadium type of people. It's
never made sense to me because I think Philly as a town is great, but Philly people they're a special breed of awful.
For sports fans in particular.
Yeah.
And I think when they won it with Nick Foles in 17, it had never been done before. You respect the passion of that fan base. You like seeing them have their reward. But now that they already have one, I'm kind of like, well, you fired Doug Peterson like a year later. Told Nick Foles to pound salt and Carson Wentz. So,
oh my God. And they both ended up in Jacksonville. There's got to be some sort of like, so you're exiled to the Jaguars.
I'm just kind of like, cool, you had yours. I don't need to see you again. And quite frankly, this is not like one of those Giants teams against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They're a 1.5 point underdog.
Right.
So there's not even like this great underdog story to rally around. Saquon Barkley, I do think is likable.
Mm-hmm.
I do think people are rooting for him. He had one of the great all-time fuck you seasons this year.
Yeah.
By going from one rival to the other in the NFC East and one big city to another and showing them, oh, you don't think I'm worth $12 million? Psh.
Right.
So there's part of me that does like that. It's part of me that even sees a path for the Eagles to run the football.
I agree.
With Hurts and Barkley and win the game.
That's part of what I think makes this so boring is for the upset to happen. We can all envision it, but it's not going to be aesthetically pleasing unless you get some of those Saquon Barkley reverse
76,
hurdles.
or any of those spectacular plays. So I think that's part of it too. They're just Nick Sirianni doesn't give anybody warm and fuzzies with his Rochambeau.
Right.
Fake tough.
And the other part is like this happens every single regular season since the first, even the Super Bowl year. This happened. Everybody thinks the dude's an idiot.
Yeah.
And like nobody seems to believe Nick Sirianni has earned these Super Bowl trips
twice now.
Can I take you?
That last game was a good game.
Yeah.
It was 38-35. I mean, they were trading paint.
Right.
Jalen Hurts, who I will compliment and say I think he's a great player, but I do think he's better as a running back than as a quarterback.
Yeah.
He outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Yeah, agreed.
Like he was the best quarterback on the field. So I don't know. It just feels like there's like a disconnect with this thing.
Can I take you behind the scenes a little bit?
Yeah.
One of my buddies runs WIP, which is the big sports radio station in Philly, and they run the Eagles radio network. And so we were talking on the phone. This was after the championship game was, and we knew the Super Bowl was set last week. And I said, there's got to be excitement. You're obviously sending the whole staff out there.
Flood the zone.
And he said, well, we're sending the staff, but there's no excitement. Like, we know what's going to happen. And I think that is part of what is going on. Like, does anybody believe, even though the line is really close, does anybody really believe the Eagles are going to win this thing?
It does feel like it's been faded.
Yeah.
Going back to last year on the field, Mahomes says to Kelsey, it's never been done before. Repeat. Now we got to go do that.
Yep.
So I think we're on the right track there. Now, of course, the last part about the Super Bowl is always the halftime show.
Yeah.
I kind of got to wonder, Kendrick Lamar just won a bunch of Grammys. I get that.
Yep.
And I mean, salute to someone who has gotten this much attention for taking down one of his mortal enemies.
The only rat beef my mother knows about before there is a body.
Yeah. So there is reach there, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, let's be honest, like how much of like the middle of America is really like acutely aware of Kendrick Lamar and his accomplishments as an artist?
I think the Grammys being so close, I think the Grammys played bigger in the middle of the country than you might realize.
I believe he had a concert special on network television this summer.
Not network, it was on Amazon.
Amazon, okay, but he played Not Like Us like 8 times,
5
or something
times in a row. Yeah,
okay. I don't think that's going to fly at the Super Bowl, right?
No, it's not. But I think what is interesting is like, all right, Little Panther Super Bowl history, right? The Super Bowl 38 was the Janet Jackson Super Bowl, right? And so after that,
wardrobe malfunction.
After that, we all know what happened. It was a string of septuagenarians playing songs that were safe. And I think if I remember right, I think the very next year was Paul McCartney, who never got up from the piano, if I recall correctly.
It was either the Rolling Stones or Paul McCartney. It was one of the two.
Yeah, it was one of the two. By the way, my work with Barrett Media gives me the chance to talk to some cool people. Do you know what the change to all this was?
No.
The Super Bowl, the NFL rather, was actually embarrassed by the Who. They were like, we've got to get some more modern acts in here.
We got to modernize this thing.
But here's my question.
And I mean, there is DNA, which is played at every stadium, at every game. So I mean, he has songs. He's probably one of those people where you're going to hear a song and be like, oh, I didn't know that was him.
Remember, he was part of the Death Row Super Bowl halftime show, and he played We're Gonna Be All Right. So yeah, he has songs that people are going to recognize. I think that it is interesting. This feels like the first dangerous Super Bowl halftime show, right? Because first of all, in Not Like Us, he just straight up calls Drake a pedophile. Is that going to happen at the Super Bowl? That's one. The other is there is this looming threat of Drake adding to the lawsuit if he plays Not Like Us. Right. You throw your hands up. Yeah, we're at a point now where suing to say the N-word without consequence is going to get you a White House invite. Yeah. I think that there is a level of excitement around the halftime show that we have not felt in a while. I'm excited about it, but I'm a Kendrick fan.
Sure. Well, I mean, let's, who's like the most generic white act that they could possibly get? Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift probably
would be like the response. This is like when they,
when
you have a fire,
the wrinkle.
When you fire a coach, right?
Yeah.
You go from the, man, he's a hard ass. He's gonna, he's gonna run him up and down the court and get him ready. And then the next you fire him and you go, well, we got to go get a players coach.
I'm glad you bring up Taylor Swift. There is the remix of her song Bad Blood that features Kendrick Lamar.
Ooh.
So does Taylor, two possibilities here. Number one, does Taylor do a quick cameo? Or number two, and this is the one I really like, does Taylor pre-record a cameo of some sort? Where even if it's just her singing the chorus of Bad Blood, so that she doesn't even have to leave the box to be a part of this.
Well, now I'm more excited about that.
Okay.
So I appreciate you taking care of me on that front. But yeah, I don't know. I love the Super Bowl. It's my third favorite day of the whole year.
Oh, so, what are the first two?
We'll talk about that off the air.
Okay.
It's like my third. Let's put it up in the top three days of the year, right?
All right.
And this week I've just been kind of like...
It's because we've seen it. But this is like, I think, a theme with the Chiefs, right? They played in 5 Super Bowls. 2 of them have been repeats. And even the one that wasn't, the one they lost to the Buccaneers.
It was the pandemic. And
Okay, I didn't even think about that part, the pandemic. But the other part is, like, we had seen Mahomes versus Brady before.
Yeah.
Like, there never really feels like it never really feels new with the Chiefs.
Yep. Housekeeping.
Oh,
Housekeeping is always brought to you by Enovana. Check them out, Enovana Green Cleaning, enovana.com. They were at the OVS compound yesterday. That means they'll be available to help other people now for the next 6 days. So check them out, Enovana. We appreciate them always taking care of us. We will be at Sully's tonight in Garner. Me, now that Joe is not feeling great.
Sure.
Come out. This is an homage to the WM, the Waste Management Phoenix Open, is played out in Scottsdale, TPC Scottsdale. The 16th hole is a par 3 on the stadium course, and it's where they throw beer. We won't throw beer, but we will try to get a hole in one. We'll give away a prize for that. The 17 on the same course is a drivable par 4. We'll have another bay dedicated to a long drive competition. So come on out. We'll be there after 6 o'clock. We have the bays from 6:30 to 8:30. It's $15 to play. We have OG hats that I'll have to go pick up to give away. And there may be some other prizes in there as well. So come check us out. It's in Garner at Sully's. That is tonight. Again, after 6 o'clock, we'll be there from 6:30 to 8:30. One person who definitely will be there will be my friend, our corporate champion, Matt Davis, State Farm. Sometimes you just want to save money.
Yes.
Particularly if we're looking at the certain forecasts, it might be a good idea
it's going to cost you 50 cents more per egg at Waffle House.
Might be a good idea to give Matt a call. See, like, hey man, how do I save on my car insurance, my home insurance, life, anything, pet, you name it. Matt can take care of you. 919-779-8277. Truly the best thing to do is to give him a call and have a conversation. Speaking of corporate champions in Garner, I love it when Novice is out because I can regale the G.
Sure.
Josh Whitaker, Joe Hamer, Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys, our friends. If you have any kind of business sales, want to close on a home, all those good things, any kind of domestic issues, you name it, traffic issues. Gosh, everyone knows my checkered past with such things. Hit them up at wh.lawyer. Of course, we will be at Shady's, the bar that Josh owns in downtown Garner, for our birthday. Stay tuned for that information as we get closer to that event. And of course, would not be complete, the Garner sweep, without our friends at Hometown Realty. Buy, sell with confidence, calculate with confidence. I don't know about you, Demetri. You're a homeowner.
I am. I don't mean to brag.
But I don't know about you, but before you started the process, it would be helpful to be like, hey, what can I actually afford?
Yes.
You can do that with Hometown Realty. So go check them out. myhtr.com. Joining us now on the Heister Automotive Group hotline from the greater Central Time Zone, from the great state of Minnesota, the voice of the Carolina Hurricanes, working for the Not DraftKings Network, Mike Maniscalco. Hey, we're not going to that other restaurant. We're making sure we're going to the breeze through, and we're going to the Not DraftKings. Okay, got it.
Hey, when I need a coffee, I'm going to Breeze Through.
There you go.
They have a great dark roast. I know some people are like coffee snobs.
Yeah,
but for real, their dark roast.
Do you know why they have a great dark roast?
I do not.
Because Adam, who owns Breeze Through, coffee stop. It's the first thing he told me about himself.
Okay.
He was like, yeah, I take this shit seriously.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of taking things seriously, Mike, I feel like it's important that we ask you, how are you feeling? And is everyone else feeling any better? Because when Rod Brendamore tells us that everyone is questionable, I get a little bit concerned about you and Tripp and all the other people that we enjoy spending time with the Carolina Hurricanes.
By the way, just one thing, Breeze Through is really missing out if they do not use the Pulp Fiction. This is some gourmet shit we're dealing with here, Jimmy. It's because I buy the coffee. That's one.
You sent in the wolf?
Oh, that's all you had to say, Joe. I am fine. Thank you for asking. I think that the majority of the team is through it. But it's the one thing, especially about hockey, is when a bug, a flu, a virus gets in the room, it's pretty much going to hit half, maybe the whole team in some way, shape, or form. So I can't tell you that they're through it. I think that there are a couple of guys who are probably either on the onset or in the middle of it, as we're here in St. Paul, and the team's going to practice in about 2 hours from right now. So I'll know a little bit more after that, but hopefully, and knock on wood, and I know whatever, but hopefully the worst of it is behind. And the good news is just 2 games until the Four Nations tournament happens. So by the time they drop the puck after that, everybody should be healthy and ready to go.
In your experience traveling with this team for the last few years, are these types of instances where you have a disease that is going through the locker room, is it better to be where you are right now once you get on the road? Because it feels like all of the travel, all of the changing of environments could really exacerbate this if everybody is right at the beginning and doesn't have the antibodies yet.
Yeah, Demetri, the road is always the worst place to be when something like this is happening. Like, you'd rather be at home.
Steve that said the road is fucking hard, the road is fucking tough.
Yeah, but you'd rather be at home because there are more controllables at home. You can send a guy home and not worry about his hotel room or what kind of food is he getting, or is he getting any rest. So I think that's the short answer is really harder when it's ripping through a team when they're on the road. If you're looking for maybe the fortunate thing about it, it really hit the team heavy when they were home for those 2 games. Mm-hmm. There's still going to be a little bit of that lingering effect from it here and until we get to the break. But no, it's the road's not that bad. The team's staying in excellent hotels, and the travel is, for the most part, you're on chartered flights. So when you put it in those terms, you can handle it a little bit better than like if you're sitting in an airport trying to, go from city to city. But no, it's always better at home. But I think because the majority of the team got hit in Raleigh, it's not going to be that bad for the guys, because at least the guys now who get it know what's going to happen, because there's been more than one test case on it. So
Adam Silver went to Duke, and clearly he was not happy with all of the attention that a team in Raleigh that wears red and white was getting for the trade of the year in the NHL. So he ordered the hit of Luka Doncic to be sold for pennies to the Lakers, just so their team in red and white in Raleigh at the Lenovo Center could not have any shine. I just want to point that out here quickly, so everyone knows, for the record, that's what really happened. That Adam Silver, Duke fan, is really behind is pulling all the strings behind this. But it's been what now? Almost 2 weeks. Mikko Rantanen now with the Hurricanes. We saw him at home. He scores the goal against Chicago. I think people are getting more of an idea, because let's be honest, Mike, and we haven't talked since the big trade. Let's be honest. There are a lot of Hurricanes fans. They have dedicated Hurricanes fans who follow that team, right? But if you're sitting here and telling me that you've been keeping up with the Avalanche and some of these other players, it's sort of like, let's just say there's 15,000 season ticket holders. Of that, if there's 1,000 who follow the other teams, I would be shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked. Not saying that Rantanen's not a big player. I'm just saying, like, you're talking about a smaller subset who would be like at home, kind of understanding. You even saw it in the press conference when they announced the trade. Like, are there any other big moves out there to be made? It's like, whoa, maybe you're not really processing what just happened here. So I say this all as a wind up of what have we seen in his time here, and now that they've welcomed a true another Finn, but a true superstar in the NHL.
So let me just backtrack with one thing about hockey fans. They are really passionate. So
yes,
if it's and they follow other teams, like they will look and see who are the leading scorers and things of that. Now, it's not like when we were kids and we could tell you who the bench players were for every Major League Baseball team or football teams. It changes, but there was a good handle on that. But Mikko Rantanen is as advertised, and that's the only way I can sum this up. Now, it's a super small sample size, Joe. It's only 5 games, but this is a guy who, going into last night, had 17 shots in the 4 games, had a goal. Apparently, right now is just trying to find a way to avoid the snakes that keep biting him. He had an unbelievable opportunity last night in Winnipeg. He beats the goalie with a great move and patience, and he dings it off the post. I mean, it's literally 1 millimeter to the left, and that's a goal. And it doesn't go in. And he is getting chemistry with Sebastian Aho and Jackson Blake. But for the small size that I've seen, yeah, this is what you wanted, because this is the guy who the Canes have not had in a lineup, especially in the playoffs. A big body who's skilled, who knows how to score, who can do everything you ask him to do. The one thing that's jumped off the page for me is how good he is defensively in his own zone that leads to him playing well in the offensive end. But no, this was everybody when they were talking about the Canes, they need to do this. They need to get over the hump. How do they get over the hump? A player like Mikko Rantanen helps that core group get over the hump. And again, we're going to sit here and obsess about what he's going to do in the final 29 games of the regular season. This is all about the postseason for the Carolina Hurricanes. I've told you this many times. Demetri, this with covering college football the way that you have. There are a lot of teams where, it's cute what you do in your conference play, but you're going to be based on what you do when you get to bowl season and now the playoff season for college football. This Canes season has always boiled down to, okay, what are you going to do in the playoffs when you get there? And I think that at the start of the year, they knew they were a playoff team. As the years moved along, now they're looking at it going, we're more than just a playoff team. What can we do to make the team better? And they swung. This is a home run swing that they took with Rantanen. And you get Taylor Hall. And I don't want to sneeze on the Taylor Hall acquisition here, because you're adding a former MVP who, he's trying to keep his career going. He's a former number 1 overall pick in 2010. Can't believe it's that long ago for the Oilers. But this is a guy who, if you put him in high leverage situations can do really good things. Like when Boston had that great regular season record, he was not counted on to be the guy, but he's one of those depth guys who you're like, oh God, now Taylor Hall's coming out over the boards if you're playing against him. So what I've noticed, the addition of Hall in just his 4 games, he's gotten a little bit more out of Andrei Svechnikov and Jesperi Kotkaniemi. So, it's all an A plus B equals C, but the early returns on the deal, guys, both players, but more importantly for Mikko Rantanen, this is what you wanted. This is what you wanted to see. Now it's just a matter of, settling in, getting comfortable, and putting a whole bunch of points on the board. Once they start doing that, then everybody will be, I think, a little bit calmer about the deal.
Can you give us a little insight into that settling in and getting comfortable process? I mean, we can see for ourselves what it looks like on the ice. What about in the locker room and at practice? How comfortable, how integrated already do these two guys feel like they are with the guys that have been here a while?
Well, I think the good news is anybody who comes to this team, it's a good group inside that locker room. It just is. There's not cliques. There's not, we're going to hang with this. I think for Rantanen, the fact that there are Finns in the locker room, and not only that, it's players that he's played with Sebastian Aho most notably. They basically grew up together playing in the Finnish hockey system, and they won a gold medal together. So you have that. I think that Rantanen has fit in, quite well. For Taylor Hall, he's fit in because now he's been traded a couple of times, and he's been traded in season, so he kind of knows what he's getting into. So this isn't a room that's like, you got to show us how good you are before we accept you. This is a room that was like, hey, great to have you here. Let's go win. That's the whole. You're here to help us win. That's the mentality, and I think when you bring in 2 players like that, that's all they want to hear. You want us to win? Okay, we can do that. We're here not just to punch the clock and go home. They're chasing a Stanley Cup too. In particular, Hall, who doesn't have his name on it. Rantanen is the other side. Once you have one, what's better than 1, 2? But the culture that the Canes have created, Demetri, it's a really good question. But the culture that the Canes have created, these guys don't have to feel like they're rushed or don't have to feel like outsiders, even if they don't know anybody on the team. That's one. The hardest thing is systems. I know this sounds crazy, but for a player like Rantanen, who's played 10 years in Colorado, he pretty much only knows his system and knows those players. So that's really timing. I think for hockey becomes the bigger thing. Like you're anticipating, for years on this player, the puck's here, I go right. Well, now maybe he has to go left. And, when you're thinking, that's going to slow you down a little bit. But I haven't seen that out of Rantanen. I haven't seen it really out of Hall. So that's the good thing. And there has been some practice time, too, which is kind of unusual. So the Canes can get these guys a little bit more adapted to the system.
Canes are in Minnesota Thursday night. Looks like that might be a radio only, Mike.
Oh, it is. It is national game. Radio only.
Radio only. And then Saturday, you get back here at the Lenovo Center, Utah. The Utah Hockey Club makes their first voyage here to Raleigh.
Oh, my son is very.
Are you the guys stealing all the patents so they can't get a name?
No, not me. But that whole Yeti thing is
it's good. Yeti got kicked out. We don't need a league full of mythical creature names.
You're the guy who's not in on the mythical creature names.
Not for this one. Kraken is too good. We don't need to follow it.
The incredulousness.
Yeah. Oh no! Listen, Mike and I.
Yeah. Trust me. This goes way back.
Radio together. No, it should be
like you're the one.
It should be the mammoth. It should be the mammoth. Listen.
Don't they become the Utah Mormons?
I know you think. Oh, Demetri likes mythical creatures. You know what Demetri likes, Mike? Demetri likes fucking dinosaurs. Okay, it should be the mammoth.
Put that on the screen.
How about the Wampus?
Well, now you're hitting me right in the fields.
See, yeah. Let's not go there, huh?
Although I guess as a hockey team, you don't want a creature with very vulnerable arms.
Well, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I didn't go with the Tauntaun.
There you go.
Sorry. By the way, Giglio, if you would have said I had to bet a hand on which one of you would be anti-mythical creature, I would have just leaned towards Joe because I have a lot of respect for Joe and he's based in reality.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I would expect that take with you in the bubble bath, Demetri.
Yeah. Well, listen, you never know which way I'm going. It's what it would give me staying power.
But after that game against the Utah Mythical Creatures, there's a 2-week break.
Yeah.
I want to say this is a good thing, but obviously Nico and Aho are going to be playing.
Right.
I mean, which, again, could be a good thing because they'll be together. But, man, Mike, I don't need to tell you, March looks like a fucking grinder, man. My gosh. That is not the way to get ready for the playoffs.
Well, the only thing I can tell you is every team's got to go through it with the compact schedule. It's not just the Canes. The thing that got difficult for Carolina was when Hurricane Milton wiped out the second game of the season, and then you had to play 15 games in January. So you're going every other day basically in January, and then you're going to do that again in March. So for the majority of the team to get those 2 weeks off, and really it's about a week and a half, because they're going to resume practice somewhere in the second week. This is an NHL sanctioned tournament. It's going to be good for the team to get away from it. But yeah, once you come out the other side, I mean, you're pretty much going every day until you get to the playoffs. And when I say going every day, it's if you do get a practice in, or if you don't, you got to take care of everything to get set. And then the trade deadline comes up out of nowhere, March 7th. So you're going to be, gearing up for that. Yeah, it's going to be tough, but it's funny. First world problems here. When I talk to the other broadcasters or you talk to other teams, one of the jokes is, what are we coming up on, game number 300 this year? It just feels like we've been in a constant loop, but that's everybody, not just the Canes. So that's for me, Joe, you're right, but it's everybody is going to be in it. It's not just the Canes. It's everybody's going to have to deal with it. The favorable thing for me is Carolina's actually going to get a lot of home games once we get to that part of the schedule.
Well, let's keep Freddie on ice then for most of March, please. And let's make sure everyone's all ready for the playoffs. So Mike Maniscalco, voice of the Canes, catch him on your radio station, catch him on the Not DraftKings network. Appreciate you taking some time. Text me some Roback choices, because I like to pay you in Roback merch. And we're getting ramped up here for the playoffs and the run here. So I need to get my ducks lined up to make sure I take care of you. Okay.
And I like the Roback merch because honestly, the leaderboard from the Open, I'm going to be buried in that shirt, just so you know.
I've even converted Demetri and Ovius. I mean,
wow.
The stretchiness of the hoodies are very forgiving to big boys.
That hoodie might be the suit jacket to my Roback British Open shirt.
Very good.
I lay there.
Can I share a quick Mike Maniscalco fact with the audience? Do you know, Mike, I think knows this. Do you know that there's a cartoon Mike Maniscalco on the wall of my office?
No.
Yeah.
Yes. A listener one time showed up to the Buzz and Fan Studios like, I drew a picture of you guys and brought you donuts. And I confiscated it before anybody else could get their hands on it. Now it is framed on my wall of cartoon Demetri's.
I'm going to need a picture of this.
Yeah, no problem.
It's I do know that one. So I do miss your scent, D. I miss your mug.
Buddy, I think about you all the time, especially now that Lauren and I are doing a show together again. Just every day, I just think, there's one piece missing.
I love
the Panthers podcast then.
No, I just love when D would roll in at like 5 a.m. and have like a full-on Greek meal ready to go.
Yeah, I'd bring a homemade breakfast burrito.
It's just peak morning show radio. Giglio likes it when Ovius and I have our PTSD about working in radio.
Yes.
So, and my oh my, could Demetri and I go down a couple of stories that would.
Every now and then I'll send Mike screenshots of one of our old bosses' social media, and I was like, I don't even think this person is AI. This is not a human being.
No. AI actually usually makes the intelligent decisions, right? That's what it's supposed to do.
Mike, in addition to creating a hotline and taking calls and doing live post-game shows, we've now created a segment called Hot and Cold, brought to you by a heating and air and plumbing company. No one in the history of radio has ever thought to do that. So we continue to break ground here on the OG and the OG Media LLC.
That's unbelievable. That is, you guys are playing 4D chess while everybody's just playing checkers now.
Just wait till they discover bringing bands into the studio and Tove Lo.
Oh, yeah. And the Tove Lo segment is the one that I can't wait for.
All right, Mike, please stay, knock on everything, stay as healthy as you can. Get through it. The Canes have 2 more games before that Four Nations break. And then, we'll all be living over at the Lenovo Center in March. So appreciate you taking some time for us. You
got it, guys. I'm just trying to stay warm right now. Flying into Winnipeg, I took pictures, and somebody asked me if that was Hoth to keep the Star Wars theme rolling. And it's whenever you go to a place, and it's 14 degrees right now here in St. Paul. And it is a, if I'm doing the math correctly, it is a 21-degree improvement from where you were, and it's 14.
21?
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know, I have a fun fact about Winnipeg that came about because we did a show together. Do you remember the fun fact Joel McHale gave us about Winnipeg?
No, I do not.
Home to the windiest intersection in the world.
Oh, that is correct. He's not incorrect. I walked back to the hotel from the rink, and it's only a 6-minute walk. And no matter which direction you turned, you were in the wind. You were going into it. It was unreal.
Yeah, apparently Winnipeg is very proud that they have documented the windiest intersection in the world.
I was going to say, I've been to Minneapolis, even though you're in St. Paul. I've been to Minneapolis. They have the tunnels. They don't even let you walk outside.
No, there's a couple of there's a couple of tunnels in Winnipeg, but yeah.
All right. Well, hey, I'm glad we were able to do this. I'm glad we were able to because when Joe's not here, we get less radio-y, so it makes me feel better.
No, good. I'm glad that I can, I don't know, bring whatever it is I bring to the show.
Absolutely. And again, make sure you test me those rollback choices, please.
I shall. I will.
All right, Mike. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, guys.
Always great to catch up with Mike. The Canes serious makeover. I also feel like the Canes are leaving us in February. It's well timed. They get it right.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like, the Super Bowl's going on. No one's really paying attention. Oh, okay.
Well, to be fair, I don't know how getting it right is in February, deciding North Carolina, Winnipeg.
Hey, now hold on. We're giving them credit. Okay. Just like we give our guy Jared over at Two Roosters credit. And if you want credit,
yes,
for being a loving husband and a intelligent gift giver on Valentine's, go to Two Roosters. Go to tworoosters.com. Even better, go in person. Order the Valentine's cakes.
Oh, I thought you were going to suggest Lucky Charms ice cream.
The Valentine's cakes for Valentine's. There's 4 different cakes to choose from. Unbelievable package. Flowers die, as Joe likes to say.
Right. Ice cream is forever.
Pajamas shrink. All of those things that in his radio scars. But ice cream can be savored, and it is delicious. Two Roosters, they are the best. Before you go to Two Roosters, it's always a good idea to go to the butcher's market. I don't know about you, Demetri, but sometimes you just have to give the people what they want.
Joe, would you like to see my to-do list today?
I would actually.
It includes a stop at the butcher's market because I got to get some short rib for chili for the game.
You are definitely like the world's big. See, I'm the hot dog.
Yeah.
You are the short rib.
I love their short rib.
Okay. And that's you have to prepare all that. And
yeah, I mean, I need a couple of days with the short rib resting before it goes into the old chili pot.
Okay. Wow. I would not even have thought about any of those things.
Yeah.
I like the hot dogs. You like the short ribs. Joe likes to get those prepared foods. They have a lot of great choices. Sometimes maybe you just want to go for lunch.
Absolutely.
Over at Lake Boone Trail, in particular, the OG Epicenter, I prefer to get the steak sandwich. So do yourself a favor, head up to Butcher's Market. It's all, or for any of their catering, any of your catering stuff, thebutchersmarkets.com. And you see, I got my OG swag on today. That means I got my Roback swag on today. You can get Roback swag. Go to Roback, RHOback.com. I played golf in my peaches yesterday. I get my peaches from Roback, not from Georgia.
Sure.
So many great choices for golf shirts. They have quarter zips. They have hoodies, shorts, sweatpants, regular pants, you name it. Check them out. Save yourself some money. Use our promo code OG20. If you're not an OG fan, I don't know what you're waiting for.
Agreed.
OGTriangleMedia.com.
Help put my kids through college.
Help do that. Help us. Help us cover different sports, different topics. You know, the kind of things that people are interested in.
Yep.
So one of the things that we have on OG Fans, and again, OGTriangleMedia.com, you would be eligible for great discounts like our Basketball Jones.
That's right.
Show.
And look, we already have other stuff in the works. That discount is going to pay for itself eventually.
Yes. And of course, we have the Sports Podcast Festival, the second annual.
Right. August 23rd.
August 23rd.
Come celebrate my birthday.
And if you haven't been to the Rialto,
oh, man.
Great job.
Absolutely.
Hayes Permar, one of the OGs, right? So I bring this up because one of the things that you do on a weekly basis with Joe Ovius is something called OG Stands on Business.
Yep.
Okay. You talk a lot about the media business, right? That's the central topic.
Yes.
Right. I love to say, you cut your teeth on the morning crew, the zany morning crew radios for people who don't know. Right?
That's right.
And then, of course, you transition to sports talk radio, and you're in the work you've done with Barrett Media, all those good things, right? So you understand, you truly understand the business, and I've covered it. And of course, Joe Ovius has been in the business for 20 plus.
And might be a bigger nerd about it than either you or.
So one of the things that we often get into is, I like to say that the media no longer exists. And part of that is social media. And part of that is the teams, particularly colleges, control the messaging and control your availability to those players so much that you were there at the Rialto last Friday,
right? And
Scott Wood was on the stage with us. Now, in 20 years, is there going to be a player who's on a team now that's going to come and talk with us?
It's interesting.
Probably not. I can
name a couple of people that were in the sports media here that have transitioned to being private contractors that go to work for these schools for, X number of weeks. And their job is to teach these players to say nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get it. And I know there are some people who, and we'll get to some of that in Hey Joe, there's some people who have bristled at when we talk about Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And now basically, look, we don't really cover these teams. We talk about them. So, but for the people who actually cover North Carolina football, it's signing day. Like, they didn't even know until today. Like, are they going to have availability? Is there going to be a press conference? It's like a whole thing.
Right.
And I get it. To the public at large, that's like a little bit of, okay, get over yourself. If you have to aggregate his work on Pat McAfee and other things, well, then that's what you have to do your job. So I get that. But I do think there's a pro and a con, right? Like, I made my career at the News and Observer by getting the best information, the best stories the best reactions out of players like Scott Wood and coaches like Mark Gottfried and Roy Williams. That's how I made my career. Okay. Not all of these players are self-starters and can do it on social media themselves. Some of them need a little a back and forth. Sometimes you need someone who's honest with you too, and not just telling you what you want to hear. Right. I bring this up because Joe and I have also talked about the English Premier League model. The English Premier League does not make anybody available.
Right.
That's not a thing. They don't care.
Right.
They've reached a point where they don't need to promote. They don't need anyone in the media's help to promote their business.
Yeah, they are the most valuable sports property in the world.
They're not making anyone available to say anything. Okay.
Right.
On the other hand, the opposite of the English Premier League model is now where we've seen more in the last 5 years, especially, but you probably even going back 10 years. You're seeing more players control their own message on social media and have their own podcast, talk about their own things.
That's,
I am for that.
Okay.
I am for that when they're good.
Okay. That's what I was about to say. When they're good,
and they're interesting, but that's the same rate that I'm going to have going into a locker room. I can't get, Ryan Finley was one of the worst talkers ever.
Yeah.
I could go and try to talk to him 20 different times and I would never get an interesting quote out of him.
Yeah.
So if Ryan Finley, maybe he starts his own podcast, like, it's not going to be interesting.
Right.
Right. So that's not on me.
I will say one thing, especially on the college level, that I don't love about all the athlete podcasts is, do you know how many like NIL collectives make we'll set you up with your own podcast a part of what they do now?
Well, they have to. There's a little bit of laundering, legal laundering going on.
I don't mind that it is part of a way these kids get paid. I don't mind that at all. What I mind is when it is through the collective and the collective controlling the message. I don't think those are necessarily good for replacing the access you used to get.
Sure. I'm all for players having their own platforms, sharing their insights when they're honest about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm all for going back, like Theo Pinson, we're going to get into Theo Pinson, going back and telling us stories, going back, hit Thaddeus Young on this week, talking about how he was recruited to Carolina and how he didn't end up at Carolina. I love all of this stuff.
Yeah.
The podcast festival, getting a chance, Marcus Gignard, Tyler Hansbrough, to have stories and tell those stories, and not just me and you or Joe covered it and have our own thoughts on it, but they lived it.
Yeah.
You know, so I like that.
Well, you saw that if you were at the Basketball Jones, you saw that when Bomani asked Marcus his favorite Roy story, and Marcus really considered which one he could actually tell. Right? There is a value, or I'm sorry, I should say there is recognition of the value of truth and vulnerability that I think a lot of these guys don't get until they're older. So look, kids are growing up more media savvy now. If that manifests itself in the way that you see, you can create value for yourself by being an interesting and honest and open type of personality, then yeah, awesome. I think that especially an 18-year-old is so vulnerable to being steered away from that.
And to be clear, I'm not advocating for media access to be even more restricted. It's kind of like the newspaper business, though. It's never coming back.
Yeah.
Like the old way is never coming back.
Yeah, of course.
Like, so you got to get that out of your head.
I used to say
we're going to have these open locker rooms and I'm going to have these great chance to talk to Scott Wood and catch up to him and do and have a relationship with him. Like, no.
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore.
I used to say this to clients all the time, the people that would be so angry about, like in sports radio. Well, why does the online product matter if I'm doing a good radio show? I would always say, I know you want it so desperately, but there's no amount of want that's going to bring 1998 back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
is the reality. And it's interesting you bring this up in the context of some of the people covering UNC did not know what the deal was going to be for signing day today.
No.
Think about the way media or social media has given us access all along the way to various recruits' journey. I know the second signing day really did a lot to devalue this day, but I also think how much these kids are telegraphing their decisions for you on Instagram, on TikTok, etc. I think that's also gone a long way in devaluing this day.
Yeah.
I totally forgotten today was the final signing day.
But this is all a ham-fisted setup by me.
Okay.
Because two things happened this week. And one of them, we'll start with the lighter one, the more interesting one. Joe has covered multiple Super Bowls. So he's been to what used to be Media Day.
Right.
It used to be on the stadium field, and it was all players, all assistant coaches, all the coaches, everyone was available. You went out, you talked to who you wanted to talk to, you did your work, you were on your way. Yes, there was a radio row that was eventually created by the Super Bowl, but now it's called opening day. And somewhere along the line, I'm not lamenting what has already happened, but somewhere along the line, it became, let's get so-and-so from Access Hollywood.
Yeah.
Who gets a daily pass and comes in and asks Tom Brady to marry her, right?
So I was going to say, Access Hollywood Entertainment, they always got the pass. It was the Access Hollywood from a different country, because wasn't that girl from Argentina?
Somewhere else. Yeah. But anyway, it's a free-for-all.
Yeah, absolutely. This year we had a GD on the field.
And wisely, the NFL has turned it into a free-for-all.
Of course.
Put them up on stages now. So it's a whole...
Put it on NFL Network.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. I actually applaud that they've tried to change with the event, and it's called opening night now of the Super Bowl. It's not Media Day anymore, because again, if there's anything I can stress to you, the media does no longer exist. So it was Fox had the good idea to give Jameis Winston a credential to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And there were two examples on from the socials that I kind of enjoyed. One was this exchange with Travis Kelce.
Can you catch a W for me?
I'm going to try and catch a dub for you, big dog.
Just catch this W first. Oh. Thank you, my brother. Can you catch one more for me so we can get a clean W? Oh. Hey, you know, somebody always trying to intercept my stuff.
Somebody.
I love the older, more self-aware Jameis Winston.
Yes. I'm usually not here for a lot of Jameis's nonsense, but I gotta say I have enjoyed these. And then he was also with Chris Jones. Again, not my strength typically. Let's see if we get Chris Jones here. This is a good one.
Hey, brothers, what's your favorite color?
Love his reaction. I love Jameis's reaction.
Man, Jameis, man, it's always a pleasure, man. Favorite color is always red, man.
Red? Do you be seeing red when you be sacking quarterbacks, man? Because you're not pleasant when you're in the backfield.
You know what? I see a red, man. I do see a red.
Okay, so when you push my right tackle in my lap, were you thinking about the sack or were you just trying to hurt my right tackle?
I was definitely thinking about the sack.
So that's a different perspective.
Yeah.
I don't have Jameis Winston's perspective.
It's funny. Jameis Winston now, I have less trouble believing he was down to Florida State, Alabama, and Stanford when he was being recruited than I did the younger Jameis Winston. Like, this dude seems very aware, very clever. Not the dude that's, jumping on tables and shouter fucker right in the pussy and, that kind of shit.
Yes, he has evolved, haven't we all? All right. So now the next part of this is the podcast and the former players. Theo Pinson, Run Your Race, has his own thing, does a great job on his stuff. He usually has like former players
back to people that would like to have him.
I understand. But he's, again, running his own race, doing his own thing. So I respect that. He does now a weekly thing with Raymond Felton and Justin Jackson. Yep. And obviously Justin and Theo, national champions. And then you had Raymond Felton, point guard, also a national champion. So I think the one thing that Carolina fans, I think, never really gave Roy Williams enough credit for was bringing the UNC family back together. Because after Matt Doherty, it was splintered. Yeah. And so I like, just on itself, I like this, that Theo has reached back and gotten a guy. Yeah, I get it. Felton's a national champion and can probably do his own thing. But I think that's where Theo's real strength is. He's really good. Mm-hmm. Theo's really good, right? Like, I think it's a mistake that they don't have him on ACC Network or ESPN. I think they would be well served to have him. But here's the one thing about former players. They're typically, right? Like Joe Montana was famous for not wanting to say anything bad about anybody. Right. And in all the way kind of up to Tony Romo, it became like this, well, what do we want a former player for? Because they're so scared to criticize honestly the current players.
Like I'm projecting this forward onto coaches as well, but it was always the reason that I never saw what everybody was talking about with how good Gruden was. Like Gruden always seemed to be auditioning for the next job to me.
Yeah. So here we go. Carolina has the performance that they did at Cameron Indoor Stadium. You can read about that on the OG Fans newsletter.
You sure can.
This week. Good response from our people. And that was my takeaway from the game. That's not acceptable. You can't have games like that in that, whether it's Carolina and Duke, whether it's Carolina and State Duke, you just can't have games where it's 40-13 after 7 minutes. Yeah. Like, that's going to get you, that's not a good recipe for you in your long-term future and your job security. It's just not.
Yeah,
right.
No, not at all.
So that was my reaction. And I want to play a little bit of Felton's reaction here, in specifically because he talks about what are some of the things that are wrong with this particular Carolina team. And obviously they've talked all season about, well, they don't have any bigs. And, now Felton was there. They both were there at a time when Roy played 2 bigs. Yeah. And remember now, when Roy retired, Carolina fans were like, oh, good, thank God. Yeah. We can play with 1 big now. Yeah. And we can run horns and we can run some more NBA sets that Roy refused to run. I just want to remind you, as fans love to remind me that I don't know anything about Carolina basketball. Okay. Now, you got Felton here saying, listen, we need more than just bigs.
Point guard. Point guard.
Talk about it.
We need a point guard too. Oh, drop it. I mean, we need a point guard too. I mean, I'm just being honest. I like the kid as a kid. He's a good kid, and he has a lot to learn, should I say?
Yeah.
You know, some of the decisions he make going to the basket. To me, he plays a lot of bully ball. He's not a bully. He tries to go to the basket, run people over, and does things. And some of the passes he makes in the winning time of the game, like that bounce pass he made versus Pittsburgh, I'm going back a game. I ain't even forget the Duke game. I don't even talk about it.
You've been thinking about it.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while. The bounce pass he made versus Pitt, where we was up to 2 minutes in the game. We got the ball, we got the position. You don't make that bounce pass to that big.
Yeah.
Running through traffic to pick the ball. That's not Sean May. I'm sorry. Sean May got some of the best hands of big men I've ever played for. And I'm not saying that because he was the big that I played with, but I could have threw that pass to Sean May. He was going to fucking catch that. And I knew that as a point guard. So as a point guard, you've been playing with these bigs all year, right? You know what you you know your players. You know the guys you've been playing with. So for you to make that pass in crunch time, it's like absurd to me.
That's right. And did you take any of that as like any kind of like personal knock on Elliot Cadeau?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think he was pointing some things out, and I've made similar points that if Carolina wants to get back to their Final Four national championship standard, they need a different point guard next year. I think that's fairly evident for most people who watch them play. I think Elliot Cadeau can help them get to the NCAA tournament, Sweet 16, all those things that happened last year, sure enough. But to be fair to him, he's the type of point guard that would be better served with a big.
Yeah.
Right? As we saw with Baycott last year, right? So my thing, though, is if you go through the comments on their page, it's like, why are you criticizing the players? You shouldn't be criticizing the players. Why are you hating on the players and not talking about Hubert Davis? Now, Theo has spent a lot of these year talking about Hubert Davis, right? And he's defended him. He was an assistant when Theo was there and won a national championship. So they all have a lot of respect for Hubert Davis. So I get that. But it's kind of like, hey, like, you got to take the good with the bad here, people. They're not attacking Elliot Cadeau. They're making constructive, critical points about his play.
That has always frustrated me about Carolina fans. And this is not just with basketball. This is with football. And it's going to ramp up this season because of Bill Belichick and the national attention. Do you really want to be considered the standard? Because if you want to be considered the standard, then you have to accept that some guys are not meeting the standard.
Yeah.
Some guys are not good enough to be a part of that standard. And in Cadeau's case, like it's a good point. Like his game would be different if he was playing with a different kind of lineup on the floor. But the Carolina team that is out there right now that includes Cadeau is not good enough for all of these Tar Heel fans that cannot fathom the idea that the game might be leaving them behind. And they're scared to say it, or we're not allowed to say it. Like, I don't get that. That doesn't make sense to me.
I enjoy that podcast for that specific reason. I know they were all, and if you listen to the whole thing, you hear Raymond is kind of chomping at the bit to offer his insights, and Theo says, "No, hold on, we don't need you unfiltered, you know, because there is a decorum there." But I enjoyed it. It just made me think those two clips there. You see Jameis, you get the good of it, and even then, I don't have any problem with what they were saying about Cadeau and or even being critical players. One thing you got to remember too now,
they're professionals.
They are professionals.
Yep.
And that's part of it.
Yeah.
So, Tim Stevens covered high school sports forever for the News Observer. And, Tim's a Garner guy in the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame, did an amazing job. And I remember one of my first assignments for the News Observer was I had to cover a high school game. And I had what I thought was a seemingly innocuous paragraph in there about where the one team had made a mistake. And he was like, "This is high school."
Yeah.
He's like, we're not going to do that in this story. And I was like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So, there is a there was a clear demarcation there. And even the college stuff, I get some people sometimes. Like, I remember Jacoby Brissett, the guy who used to work at NC State, like, man, you were always like super unfair to Jacoby Brissett. And I was like, was I? Like,
yeah,
I mean, no, you were. And I was like, oh, okay.
You and I have had conversations off the air about how ridiculous some of my, like, hey, if he's a loser, move on. Doesn't matter the money, just move on. Who cares? and I tell you all the time, like, you say that, when I was at Alabama as a student, I saw how much, like, consternation, how much in the wilderness that caused Alabama to be. And my counter to that is always, yeah, but I also saw us not wasting time with obvious losers, right? I think that it is, to your point, it is very easy to do that with a coach. I think some people, fans especially, but also these guys that were players that are now in the media, are having to come to terms with, oh, yeah, I guess we kind of can do that a little less gently with players now. I think that if you are playing games on national TV, this is why I don't love high school basketball and high school football showing up on ESPN or FS1 or whatever. I think if you're playing on national TV, everybody can see it. You are ripe for criticism. As long as it's fair, what's wrong with it?
Well, I know where you can get a fair deal from our friends at the Donnelly team at Keller Williams Commercial Real Estate. Brian and Julie, right? Give them a call.
That's a team that has all the right pieces.
They do. Look at your radio. Your business, you need a new office, you need a new space, or maybe you're starting a business. My friend Punkit Shear started a law firm, was here in the Triangle, needed a space. Went to Brian and Julie, got a space. Well, guess what? The law firm did well. Needed a bigger space. Went back to the Donnelly team. So give them a call, 919-616-8681, or you can find them at triangleNCCommercial.com. I am so glad that Demetri Ravanos, radio knower, radio historian, radio binder guy, is here for this groundbreaking moment in podcast history.
Ooh, okay.
Starting this week on the OG, we became the first people to ever come up with a hot and cold segment.
Okay.
Brought to you by 1-800-PLUMBER+AIR. That's 1-800-PLUMBER. Give them a call. They handle all of your plumbing needs.
So wait, I don't have to dial plumber plus air. I can just get away with plumber.
You can.
Nice.
1-800-PLUMBER or 1-800-PLUMBER.com.
Okay.
So check them out for all of your plumbing needs. They also handle all of your HVAC needs. Can you imagine anything more handy than this in your entire life?
Not at all.
As I said, I'm the idiot who's over there going, well, this toilet's leaking, but I can fix it. This garbage disposal, I can watch a YouTube video and fix it.
Right.
You can, but then you're just going to have to end up finding a plumber to fix it for you anyway. So now we've made it super easy for you. 1-800-PLUMBER.com or give them a call, 1-800-PLUMBER. Hassle-free scheduling, upfront pricing, transparent communication, friendly licensed technicians, quality workmanship, and their name is their number. Also, key 24/7 emergency service and peace of mind.
I could have used this past weekend.
Again, because you know how many times plumbing emergencies happen between 8 and 5 during the week?
Very rarely.
Never, ever in the history of plumbing emergencies. So please take care of our good friends. 1-800-PLUMBER. That's 1-800-PLUMBER.com. Okay, so are you ready? They're an HVAC company.
Right.
So what we did was we have a hot and a cold. So we're gonna have music for this. There's a Katy Perry song. There's our guy's working on it. Don't worry. There'll be music. Okay.
You know how big I am for the imaging. Like it's nothing if it doesn't have the imaging.
We did the same exact bit on radio, but never been done before.
Right.
So our hot of the day,
hot of the day.
Look at this pronoun usage I got going on here. St. John's, the Johnnies. My dark horse pick. I have a Final Four ticket on Rick Pitino and St. John's. They don't shoot very well to win the national championship, but man, I cannot wait for them to be in the same bracket as Louisville and Kentucky and to break both of their hearts. I want to buy the popcorn right now.
It is funny
things.
You say this because my son this morning on the way to school said to me, just out of the blue, did you know St. John's is leading the Big East?
They are. They've won 9 games in a row. They beat Marquette last night, 70-64. And yes, 72-year-old Rick Pitino.
Right.
I mean, how many times has he done this before? You had Kentucky, you had Louisville, you had Providence that he takes to the Final Four. So I have that ticket lined up. I did mention there
as a Celtics fan, though, he's still garbage.
Well, yeah. Please don't get me started that you're somehow an Alabama and Celtics fan. We're glossing.
Immigrant father, baby.
St. John's. They play really hard. They do. They are athletic. They are big. Yeah. They cannot shoot to save their life, though. It's like it's the Moneyball scene. Right. What is their fatal flaw? Well, their fatal flaw. Well, but the best part about St. John's having this fatal flaw is Rick Pitino knows it's their fatal flaw.
Okay.
And he has a little bit of fun with it. He was on with John Fanta from Field 68. So here's Fanta catching up with him.
How much enjoyment are you taking coaching this group?
Well, it's twofold answer. I'm having a great time because they give me everything they have. When they shoot the free throws and when they shoot from the field, I want to kill myself.
That's a fair assessment of St. John's from me.
Yeah.
And now you see it from their coach.
He always throws you a curveball, right? This is the same dude that just last week was lecturing, thought he had standing with Kentucky fans,
right,
to lecture them about how to treat John Calipari.
Right. Well, he also had a very important lecture earlier this year when they beat Seton Hall because they have Kadari Richmond, one of Seton Hall's better players, that transferred to St. John's. And he's just said, because I went on a rant last week, 2 weeks ago, about we should just fire everybody and let Rick Pitino coach everybody because Rick Pitino is the best coach and he's the only good coach in all of college basketball,
right? Of course.
Right? And it's like, even Rick Pitino came out and said, hey, we didn't even make the tournament last year, but now we have an NIL. Yeah. We spent a bunch of money and we have a good roster, and including this really good player who helped Seton Hall get to the tournament. I appreciate his transparency on those fronts. Now, if there's a hot, then there has to be a cold.
Sure.
And I got to tell you, Demetri, there's a lot of things that you and I both like about Joe Ovius, but the NBA is just not one of his favorite subjects.
I've heard.
I come in here on Monday and I'm like, you ready to talk about the strangest, oddest, most surreal trade in the history of professional sports, right?
Yeah.
And he looked at me like,
oh my God.
And I'm like, Joe, I get it. This would be something that you'd have to lead your program on typically, right? I said, but I'm not saying let's devote the first segment to it. I'm saying, but we have to have a conversation about the absurdity of the Mavericks trading one of the 3 best players in the NBA for not one of the 3 best players in the NBA.
I'm going to take you behind the scenes of, I guess, behind the scenes of the basketball, Jones, although this trade happened the next day, right?
Yes.
So Sunday morning.
Or that night. It was at 12:30.
No, it was 12:30 the next night. It was because our show was Friday. This happened Saturday into Sunday.
Okay.
And I know this because Sunday morning I show up at the 21C Hotel in Durham to pick up Bo to take him to the airport. And he walks out of the hotel. And the first thing he says to me is, yo, what the fuck? he gets in the car and we're quiet for just maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And it just dawns on him. Do you know how much Dallas must hate Luka Doncic? I'm like, this is all we talked about. This is a guy that's been one of my closest friends for 20 years. It's all we talked about, the ride to the airport.
So my cold is still the Dallas Mavericks, to the point that we're now getting conflicting reports that they're actually giving a refund for seasons for some, or at least have given a refund, according to some fans who have been quoted. I think it's WFAA in Dallas, saying that they got a refund for next year's season ticket package based on how, and you saw the funeral that some fans had and brought the casket.
Can we, by the way, talk about either whether this is Amazon, whether this is the resourcefulness of the fans themselves to overnight a casket to be there in time for the game?
Yeah. And if you haven't seen it here, I actually have it. So again, the Mavericks traded Luka Doncic. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
You think he's fat. You think he's lazy. Whatever it is, you traded him. In a world where Mikal Bridges gets 5 first-round picks,
yep,
you can't give away one of the 3 best players in the NBA without either a bunch of draft picks,
yep,
a good, like Cade Cunningham. Let's say they traded him to Detroit, and they got Cade Cunningham.
Right.
And you'd be like, okay.
Well, and then,
okay, I kind of get it. You're at least getting a cornerstone piece in return.
Well, and then there came out the news that Nico got talked out of demanding Dalton Connect be part of it.
I saw that. That was Kirk Goldsby with Bill Simmons. That initially Nico Harrison, GM of the Mavericks, had asked for and easily could have gotten. Connect, the 2 1s, and Anthony Davis, and now it somehow ends up just being Anthony Davis and 1-1 again. If you want to give up on your franchise player after he leads you to the NBA Finals, I already have serious questions for you. He's 25 years old.
Yeah.
That's a serious question. But then again, like if you're going to give him up, you got to get a whole lot more than 31-year-old Anthony Davis, who's always perpetually hurt.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 years he's played a lot, especially by comparison to how much he's played. But it's the same argument I make when people tell me that my take that the Panthers should cut DJ Wanham is crazy. It is that, like, with Wanham, it is blood clots. With Davis, it is knee issues. Those don't go away. Right. They keep coming back. So, like to your point about 31-year-old Anthony Davis, he's played 92% of the games the last 2 calendar years. That does not guarantee.
Right, at 31.
Right.
Here's the funeral that some Mavericks fans staged.
By the way, great work on flattening out the air bubbles on the Mavericks logo.
So that's my cold for today, Wednesday, and our all completely original hot and cold segment.
Luka is my son's favorite NBA player. I cannot stand him. Does not mean that I would trade him for Anthony Davis in a 1. I just don't like the guy.
Yes, it is the Super Bowl. It ain't no little itty bitty teeny tiny bowl. It's the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 59. Get out on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. Scoring touchdowns is the key to hoisting the Vince Lombardi Trophy, and you have a shot to score big by betting on them at the DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet on touchdowns. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download that DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use that promo code OG24. That's OG24 for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly, only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
Speaking of good choices, I've been making good choices in 2025, save for one night.
Uh-oh.
You know, I got after a little bit at the
you did.
Basketball Jones.
Look, we
podcast.
all had a good time.
Just trying to have a little bit of fun. Just trying to jog those memories. Now, after we do said things, we like to go to O2 Fitness.
Oh, very good.
We like to sweat it out
some of
those bad choices and make better choices by going to O2 Fitness, all of their different locations across the triangle. Listen, if you're a gym, and they're more than a gym, but you still need to have a convenient location.
Agreed.
Otherwise, you ain't getting out of your house or you ain't leaving work and being like, yeah, I really need to go work out.
Yep.
Convenience is a key. So O2 Fitness has you covered there. Of course, they have you covered with Renew Physiotherapy, Loop Nutrition. They have their own personal trainers that can help you out, different programs. Because again, I'm 50, and when I go to the gym, I'm like, yeah, man, remember when I was in high school and I did like 3 sets of this and 4 and it's like, no, dude, like you have different issues now. So let's work on those different issues and not just guess. So O2 Fitness, check them out, o2fitnessclubs.com. I got to get better at these ad transitions. You know, that's the one thing Joe Ovis is like super really crazy good at that I'm just not. So let's just give up on trying on the train, maybe, or yeah.
Why?
I mean, sometimes you just clumsily go along.
No, listen, my motto since school has been trying is for nerds.
Well, I'm unlike Yoda. I like to try, but sometimes you just have to accept what you're just not good at. So, one thing though, our friends at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority are really, really good at getting rid of mice. I think I've told this story before, but my Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority came to my house. They did
because the whole staff is nothing but cats.
They did 360 moisture barrier on my crawl space.
Yeah.
And there was mice in the HVAC unit. And I was like, now, wait a second. What is going on here? They're like, yeah, that's why you hear them upstairs in the attic. So while they were cleaning downstairs, they were like, we can also take care of those mice upstairs for you up in the attic. So A to Z, soup to nuts, ants to mice. They got it all covered. Check them out. bugsbite.com. Now, clunky, transition, awkward while Joe scrolls through the list of tiles that Joe has on for the YouTube page on StreamYard that are in no order. They're not alphabetical. There's nothing. Like, this man likes to rag on our former producer, Jonathan Rand. I never call him Jonathan. Rand, sure. And his organization is like probably like right here, right below Rand's. Okay. Yeah. So, but here we are on the home field tile.
Sure.
Speaking of amazing apparel, speaking of amazing sweatshirts, speaking of amazing sweatpants, home field apparel.
Can I give you the like under the radar? Hey, home field apparel's kind of killing it.
Yes. What you got?
Socks.
No, they do not.
Absolutely.
Are you being serious right now?
Yeah, I've got myself 3 pair of home field socks.
All right, now are they Alabama socks? Or are they they're straight up rod blow?
I must say, I do have a pair of crimson socks.
Okay.
They are not Alabama socks. They look like your classic 70s and 80s high school gym socks.
Okay.
I've got my purple.
Oh, no.
I've got my crimson. And I've got my, I guess you would call it Carolina blue.
Okay.
But it's like the catch-all blue they use for Carolina, UCLA, whatever. But insanely comfortable socks.
The best way to save 15% on your first order is to go to homefieldapparel.com or go to the app. You can save a lot on the app.
Yeah.
Okay. Use a promo code OG24. You'll save 15%. Hey, if you want socks, do it to it. Demetri really is the poster child. Like, I'm the Roback guy.
Yeah.
You're the home field guy. Like, I'm glad you're here today to give home field the proper love.
Listen, Josh at home field knows that I will never buy a team that I can't stand. And the problem with the Rinkside hoodies is the 2 best looking of those Rinkside hoodies are Tennessee and Auburn.
Oh,
and I'll be damned if I'm buying those, but man, those Rinkside hoodies look good.
I had a Tennessee Q-zip on yesterday, and one of my Jim, who's a Florida fan's like, oh, no, I don't like that color. But he was at the same game that I did, and it was an orange out, so that's why I went and I got it. And of course, our friends from Breeze Through, you know, there's not a lot we could have done on this program from the jump without Adam over at Breeze Through. So when you're over at the arena, maybe you're going to a hockey game. Maybe, you know, you're listening in the car to Mike Maniscalco. Maybe there's like a Canes Corner event that Mike Maniscalco is promoting. And you're like, before I hit that up at the restaurant that doesn't advertise with the OG right next to the Breeze Through that does, you stop at that Breeze Through and you get yourself some coffee. You get yourself some snacks. So we appreciate our friends at Breeze Through. Hey, baby, I hear the podcast calling can only mean one thing. It's time to get out of here on some Hey Joe. Hey Joe is brought to you today by our friends at Nature's Relief. Do you know why, Demetri?
I do not.
Because I'm not technically talented enough to work the OG sports phone. So,
gotcha.
They are our sponsors for the OG sports phone, which you can call at any time.
Of course.
919-444-2211. Call the OG sports phone and curse or don't. Curse or don't. But here's the key. You vent, and then you chill with Nature's Relief. Our friends at Nature's Relief.
It's very good.
Hit them up on the Timber Drive. Speaking of, we'll be in Garner tonight at Sully's, right next door. is a Nature's Relief. Pop in, get yourself a drink, get yourself a gummy, and get all the other choices that you have there. They have such great service, whether you know what you're looking for or not. Maybe you just want to chill out.
Yep.
Hit them up, the Nature's Relief right there in Garner. So I actually have one Hey Joe question for us today.
Very good.
And here it is. Dear Demetri. Hey, Demetri.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Demetri.
There you go. I'll tie it in.
Is there any hope for humanity?
Oh.
Well, you don't have to answer because I have the answer.
Oh, okay. All right.
And the answer is definitively yes. So last week on this program, there was a segment that we did about the ACC re-upping with ESPN.
Right.
Okay. And Joe Ovies has radio scars when it comes to certain topics. Expansion is one of them.
Right.
Right. So a video was sent to me from the Big Mountain podcast.
Okay.
About how they had been informed from sources at the Big Ten meetings. You know, the Big Ten and the SEC are meeting basically about the future of those two super leagues and how they want to handle the playoff. And
I think ADs just want to go drinking on Broadway in Nashville.
And how they want to handle their scheduling going for all those things. Like, it was a legitimate meeting. And this podcast was like, hey, I talked to this one guy, one source, and they said basically that what was the indication during these meetings was that ESPN, which has the ACC as their property, right, would like to keep North Carolina as one of their properties because of the value of that brand.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, they would like to keep them happy. And instead of letting them leave for the Big Ten, which has long been rumored, right, because of the academic prestige and the fit and all this other stuff, they would like to keep them under the ESPN umbrella and therefore move them to the SEC. I'm boiling it down, but essentially that was like the main talking point.
But look, I mean, like, I have been saying this for years, that if you are ESPN, you basically leverage everything you have to get Duke and Carolina into the SEC.
Right. And their point was they definitely wanted Carolina, and then they would basically have to take state. The SEC would have to take state. And I argued, well, the SEC needs to take more marks. They need more suckers.
Sure.
I think that's what Sankey looked at this year and said, now, how did Indiana get into the... They didn't play anybody.
Yeah.
In part because the league is so bad at the bottom.
Yeah.
The SEC doesn't have any bottom feeders. Even Vanderbilt was freaking good this year.
I've often said that I think that the SEC should, and coming off of this last football season is a really good example of this. The SEC should be a little bit colder and go, you know, what do the Mississippi schools in South Carolina really add?
Oh, you're saying get them out.
Get them out and bring in marks from places that matter.
Fair. Because the Mississippi schools in South Carolina have figured out how to be competitive.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But they'll never be good enough to win the whole thing.
State, UCF, come on down.
Yes. Okay. So if you look at, if you go back to that episode and look, our friends from the Big Mountain podcast left this very nice message, I thought, especially considering maybe Joe Ovies wasn't being as graceful as he could have been.
Joe Ovies
in talking about conference expansion, right?
Right.
And then the decor of their studio and whatever else. So here we go. Appreciate your comments on our discussion. Just a few things we would like to comment on. Thanks to Elliot for his comment to you and your discussion. Appreciate JG for understanding our points. Looking at the big picture, it makes sense that ESPN wants to use their intellectual property to increase their market cap. Appreciate JG using our comments regarding the Big Ten media. We did an episode on this very topic. Fox is winning. The other two, NBC, CBS, aren't happy. It was sold as equal value, and it is anything but. Ovies is totally correct in the YouTube algorithm, but that is not what we do in any way. A quick scroll of our episodes will prove that. Ovies is also correct about sources. They tell you what you want to know. We went over what they tell you what they want you to know. We went over that in our follow-up Q&A on the live show. On the negative, Ovies judged our podcast in the episode, as JG said, was being a dick without listening to our episode or knowing anything about the show. That was a low blow, in my opinion, but it happens in this space. Again, thanks for the discussion. And the bill is certainly not Dion, but Belichick is certainly not Dion, but he will draw eyeballs. Interesting point about NC State being a mark. Lastly, the nostalgia aspect of Disneyland is unmatched. And Ovies is spot on. MTWR and Matterhorn are fire.
MTWR.
Whatever the show, whatever the thing in Disneyland is. So stay well, gentlemen. So I thought that was a very gracious comment, particularly in light of maybe Joe not being as nice as he could.
Okay, I've got a question for you.
This is reviving even in this vast wasteland of the YouTubes and comments on the YouTubes, this is reviving my faith in humanity.
Hang on, I'm going to need you to put that back up.
Oh, okay.
Because I do have a question for you.
Okay.
I see that OG Triangle Media did reply.
Oh.
Was that you or was that obvious?
I think it was obvious because I saw it on my phone.
Oh, dear.
And that's me. So it would say, when I reply, it's my...
Right.
Because I don't reply on the... Okay, so let's see. This is like...
I'm very scared.
Are you? No,
might have said
I think he may have gotten level-headed on us. Let's see.
Appreciate the comment, guys. To clear something up. Holy shit.
Whoa,
all right,
geez,
this is
Lord
too much.
Joe.
Forget it. Who cares?
Yeah, I think it basically him saying, radio scars.
Yeah.
But he did say, anyway, maybe y'all should come on the show soon just to make sure you get some old school memorabilia on that wall. So... Joe not here to defend himself, but I saw that comment scrolling through like
Toad's Wild Ride.
There,
That's what MPW is.
Your boy wasn't coming up with that. No chance at that. Hey man, appreciate you. I know you have a lot going on.
Yeah,
and at the last second here today, helping us out. If Joe is sick tomorrow, does this feel like a 24-hour? Oh, we would be in North Hills tomorrow. I might be able to hold it down by myself in a live show. Noon is the
what time would it be over?
1.
Okay.
Since Ovius is not there to drag on rounds that don't have to happen.
My son's junior high is literally next door.
Okay.
So I could do that.
If you need to be there at noon, you can.
Yeah, I could be there at noon.
North Hills. We did it. Perfect. Woo! Make sure we'll be out tonight at Sully's. If you're listening, obviously Wednesday, we'll be out there tonight. 6:30 to 8:30. We have those 2 bays. We'll have those 2 contests. Please come join us. It'll be a lot of fun. And then, yes, we are live tomorrow, Thursday, from the Happy Inhale in North Hills. We will have a very special live show at noon tomorrow. So come out and join us at North Hills at the Happy Inhale. Appreciate Demetri. And get better, Joe. Please get better because I can't find buttons like this.